So we're on page 77. We've been dealing since last week about the title of Avraham HaIvri, the Hebrew. We mentioned what does Ivri mean, and most people say it means Ivri as in he was from the other side of the river. Some say Ivri, he stood up against the tides, against the people who were running away from Hashem. And in essence, we show that Ivri means from the spiritual and genealogical lineage of Ever. And we spoke last week about the fact that there was a nation who were, in essence, the predecessors of what we would call the Jewish people, of the Am HaNivchar, of the Am Segula. And those people were the Ivriim. They were people who were known for their spiritual capacities. They were people who were known for their, what special spiritual capacity they have. They were able to receive prophecy. Last week we were discussing, is it to prophecy or is it to prophesize? If I'm not mistaken, you could use both in English, but I used the word prophecy last week. What?
Not just the Ivrim.
Just specifically the Ivrim. We mentioned that the lineage of people who came from Ever were the only ones who had this gift of Nivuah.
What about Bilam?
So a lot of questions on Bilam. Bilam is an exception to a rule. He's not even, there's not enough of him to even consider it a possibility. Some question, Bilam's whole, what exactly went on over there with Bilam?
Yeah, I'm always amazed that he's mentioned it all in the Torah.
Yeah, Torah, right?
This is such a rasha, you know. I mean,
at the end of the day, it was an important story for us.
You know, whole parsha.
And in Achanami, later on in time, there was a need to give the Goyim a Navi. The Midrash there speaks about it. But in this part of history, Nivah was, you didn't know there was Nivah, so what do you care if you have a Nivah, you don't. These people had. There's a special family tree. And we mentioned he knew in the future that in his days, the world was going to split up, was going to fight. And we saw from there that he had prophecy. And these are all the descendants of Ever. I want to continue. Last week I said we're going to discuss what we would like to call the first Zionism mentioned in the Torah. Zionism is a scary word. For certain people, it's a good thing. For other people, you could have said a curse word. For some people, it's anti-Semitic. For some people, it's the worst thing that you can miss as a Jew. Everyone has their own definition of what is Zionism, probably because of the way secular Zionism turned out in the last 65 years. And those of us who would like to label ourselves as Zionists would do ourselves a favor by also knowing the other side of the story. Why there are Jews who are religious who wouldn't deem themselves Zionists. They would deem themselves lovers of Eretz Yisrael, people who are connected to Eretz Yisrael, but not Zionists. Now, whether I don't really agree with this worldview, but I'm just throwing it out there that in order for us to maintain ours, you have to truly understand the other side. And I feel that most Jews don't understand the other side, and it's important to do so. But not for right now. The word Zionism for us. And there are Goyim who try to separate between Judaism and Zionism. There's that famous lady once, she spoke in, her name, she spoke in the UN, she said, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, because they're not the same thing. And it was a ridiculous statement, because if you define Zionism as being part of a secular movement that made Aliyah to Israel, then many people who consider themselves Zionists are not Zionists. And if you consider Zionism as a Jew's natural yearning to return to the land of Israel, then there's no way in the world that you can separate that from us being Jewish. That has been part and parcel of every Jew, of every rabbi, of every posek, of every Kabbalist. Everyone has been yearning to go back to Israel. And therefore we by default are Zionists whether we like it or not. We say 3 times a day, V'techazena anenu, Hashem, please let our eyes see, B'shuvcha l'Zion barachamim, let us see. You come back to Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem, we've been zocheh, we've merited recently to see the Jewish people returning back to the land of Israel. I want to take you back to the first time in the Torah that you find Zionism. In order to do so, I want to start you off in the book of Yoshua. Yoshua, you don't have in front of you, is speaking to the Jewish people. And he brings together all the tribes. He brings together the judges, the leaders, the heads of the tribes. Vayomer Yoshua al kol ha'am, Yoshua says to the people, Ko amar Adonai Elohei Yisrael, this is what Hashem has told us. Be'ever hanahar, on the other side of this river, Yeshuvu avotechem, your ancestors used to live. Me'olam terach avi Avraham ve'avi Nachor, and they were there from the times of Terach, the father of Avraham, and the father of Nachor. Just say the father of Avraham. Why both the father of Avraham and the father of Nachor? Who is Nachor?
He's the father
He's
of
not-
Terach. No.
He's the son of Terach.
No, father of Abraham.
No, he's the...
Brother.
Nachor is the brother of
The
Avraham.
brother.
Terach is the father of Avraham. My grandfather, Alav Shalom, had in all of his books, sometimes in some of my books you'll find it too. It's not mine, it's my mother's book. Some of my books you'll find. It says inside, HaKoreh bo yismach, v'hagonvo yimach. That the one who reads this book shall be happy, and the one who steals it should be obliterated. And then it says in small letters, Bet Aleph Bet Taf. Taf, what am I saying? Taf, I was right. And it stands for, I was asked my grandfather, I said, why do you have this in all your books? He says, because, in Yemen, books were very expensive. So those of us who own books, we wrote inside, you can read it, we let, but if you steal it, Hashem should curse that person. So, what does the acronym stand for? It stands for Bischut Avraham ben Terach. In the merit of Avraham, the son of Terach, this should happen. That was it was a big deal. Avraham Avinu was the son of Terach, whether we like it or not. There's something in the life of Terach that is very important for us to understand. And why Nachor? Why Yeshua is not speaking to the children of Nachor. He's speaking to the children of Avraham. So why is he even mentioning their uncle, Nachor? What do you care? Why Nachor? I'm asking these questions and they'll be answered throughout this shiur tonight. Let's take us to the book of Bereshit. The book of Bereshit, we're on page 52, chapter 11 it is. Yud Aleph in Bereshit, page 52, or 53 in the English. The history of the Ivrim starts where? Where does Terach live? Ur Kasdim. Terach lives in a place called Ur Kasdim. Is Ur Kasdim part of the land of Israel? No. Meaning the Ivri, the first Ivri, is already living outside of Israel. Now the Torah doesn't tell us how the Ivrim ended up from the land of Ever, from the land of Israel, to the land of Ur Kasdim. But you can imagine, Parnasah, finding a wife, whatever it was that brought them there. You find that the Jews, the Ivrim, I'm going to call them Ivrim, not Jews, the Ivrim are living already out in the Galut, in Kuzari. It's in Ur Kasdim. And you find in the Pasuk here, Pasuk, Lamed Aleph, it says, Vaikach Terach et Avram beno. Terach, out of nowhere, he takes his son, Avram, Vet Lot ben Haran, and he takes Lot, the son of Haran, ben Beno, that's the son of his son, Vet Sarai Kalato Eshet Avram Beno, and he takes Sarai, who's Sarai? That's Avram Avinu's wife. ויצאו איתם מאור כסדים ללכת ארצה כנען. They leave Ur Kasdim. What's their mission? Where are they going? They're making Aliyah. Canaan is the land of Israel. They're making Aliyah, no Nefesh B'Nefesh flights here, no Jewish agency. They're just doing it on their own 2 feet. They're traveling towards Canaan. They're sick and tired of the Galut. Vayavo ad Haran. They reach Haran. Is Haran in the land of Israel? Outside the land of Israel. It's outside the land of Israel. And they get stuck in Haran. Vayishvu Sham, that's where they end up. They don't even make it to Eretz Canaan. They travel, they leave Ur Kasdim, they travel to the land of Israel, and they get stuck in Haran. And you could say that this is the first time in history that someone has made Aliyah to the land of Israel. That someone decided, I don't want the Galut, I don't want to live in exile, I want to go to Israel, and they got up and they went to Israel. The Midrash shows us that there's something special about Terach. Terach wasn't just an ordinary person. What was he? What did he do? What was his profession?
He was selling idols.
Yefeh. The Midrash tells us in the Kuchimonit, Terach mocher tzlamim haya. He was the seller of idols. Seller of idols. What kind of profession is that? I sell idols. I'm an idol maker. Why would someone buy an idol from a Jew, from an Ivri,
Jews are merchant, Sahara.
They're good salespeople, huh? It's a good reason not to buy
He might
food.
have been. He might have made the by his chut. He may have made his idols so that they're effective, and people found out that he was, his idols were very effective.
And you're saying perhaps his divine
product,
power in
his
him,
product was
his
a
product
very good
worked.
product, and people came to
It
him.
wasn't just imitated, it worked. People say something else?
You could ask him, why would a Jew or an Ivri?
He's an Ivri. I'm using Jew interchangeably just for sometimes I slip, but
So why
even-
would he
why
in
would-
the first place be making idols?
you tell me. One spoke here about Mashiach, about the Beit HaMikdash, the role of the Beit HaMikdash. We spoke here about why the non-Jews can believe that a Yeshu, who's Jewish, is actually the intermediary between them and God. It's not so hard for the world to believe that the Jewish people are in a very special spiritual capacity. They believe very much that we're connected to Hashem. That's part of what angers them, says the Rambam. Part of what angers them is why we have this relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So here we are. Terach is a person who has some kind of spiritual power. You can imagine he doesn't know exactly what it is. He doesn't know about Hashem, the one God of the world. He's just what you would call a very spiritual person. So what do? You want to discover religion, you want to learn about philosophy. Who do you go to? You go to the guy who knows it all. You go to Terach. Terach didn't just sell idols. Terach sold ideologies, theology, philosophy, worldviews. People went to Terach to learn from him, to buy products, spiritual products from him. Because even then they believed that an Ivri, that's from the house of Ever, has a special spiritual power, has the ability to teach them about religion. And even though, for us, idols are the antithesis of religion, of being, of monotheism, of belief in Hashem, for them, an idol was the most spiritual thing you could have. Someone who had an idol was very connected to something spiritual, so to speak, even godly. Those who didn't have idols, those were what you would call, secularists. They didn't believe in any God. Those who had idols were one step above. They weren't refined, but it made sense for them to go to Terach. And it made sense for Terach to be a dealer of idols, of religions. Avram's rebellion against his father wasn't a rebellion in that you shouldn't believe in something. His rebellion was, Terach, you're from the house of Ever. Don't you know that this stuff is for them? The Goyim, they want to have idols, they can bow down to whatever they want. But you're an Ivri. How can you get so carried away with their nonsense? Why are you forgetting who you are? That's Avraham Avinu's fight. That's his struggle. We find a number of people here in this time, in this history, in the family of the Ivrim. You find Terach and his three sons. His three sons are Avram. We mentioned another one. Haran, right? And Nachor. These three sons. Why is Nachor not mentioned here in the Chumash?
Was left behind.
You told me, you know the Midrash, everyone. Why was a place called Ur Kasdim? Haran doesn't come with them either. See here? Haran doesn't come with them either. Haran doesn't come.
Wait.
Who comes with
His son.
Lot ben Haran? Only the son of Lot comes. So we're missing Nachor, and we're missing Haran. Haran is missing in action. Why was this place called Ur Kasdim? The famous Ur Kasdim, the famous furnace, the furnace of Nimrod.
Oh,
You know the
where he
Midrash.
had,
This,
the three prophets walking, and he put them into the oven, and they.
that's Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi. But here, you're right. There was a fiery furnace. But here with Nimrod is furious about the fact that Avraham Avinu has staged a rebellion. Who are you to hate on our gods? Who are you to tell us that what we're believing in is nonsense? I'm God, says Nimrod. And he brings, it's all in the Midrash Tehillim, he brings Avram and Haran. He brings, come, stand in front of me. I want to see how much your God can help you. Now, Haran was wishy-washy. Avraham Avinu knew he had found Hashem. Haran wasn't so sure. He was sure that Avraham Avinu was right. His older brother is a good guy. He's married. He's got his act together. On the other hand, he's still part of the people. I mean, he still has his doubts like everyone else. So Avraham Avinu says, come. I'm going to walk into the furnace and I'll show you my God won't touch me. My God will make sure that nobody can hurt me. And Avraham Avinu goes in and he goes out. Here you have Haran. And he knows the next question I'm going to ask him, Nimrod. Nimrod's going to say, Haran, are you from us? Or are you from Avraham's people? He says, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to answer the question yet. If Avraham Avinu goes in, he's okay. I'm Avraham's people. If not, Nimrod, I love you. And that's what happens. He waits and he sees Avraham go in. Avraham goes in. Avraham comes out. He says, Nimrod, you know who I am? I'm an Ivri. I believe in God. I don't believe in your nonsense. Starts to say what he really believes now that he sees the miracle. He walks in and he never walked out. He walks in and he never walked out. And in essence, Haran has been killed. Haran doesn't leave because he can't leave. He's dead.
What about Nahor?
Nahor, I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. And it's only after Haran dies that Terach says, listen, I can't be Jewish and live here. I can't be Jewish and live here. I have to get up and run away. I have to run away. Why is he running away? Rav Uri Sharki suggests something very interesting. We were mentioning last week how history repeats itself. The history of the Ivrim is very similar to the history of the Jews. What Nimrod was staging was not just a persecution of Avraham. This was a genocide that was perpetrated against all of the Ivrim. This was the world's first Holocaust. He calls it Shoat HaIvrim, the Holocaust of the Hebrews. In essence, it makes you ask a question. Terach seems to be alone. He doesn't bring cousins, brothers, uncles, relatives. They're not with him. He says, because they're all been killed. They've been victims of the genocide of Nimrod. They want to get rid of these Ivrim. They've wanted to get rid of the Ivrim since the Ivrim haven't existed. So who's left? You're left with Terach, Avram, his son, the son of Haran. Where's Nahor? Where's Nahor? Let's look where Nahor is. We have the psukim here. Let's look in the 24th chapter of Bereshit.
What page?
I want to tell you in 1 second.
119,
24 starts on 109.
Yeah, he's
Avraham Avinu is looking for a wife for Yitzchak. He says, don't take somebody from the nations of the land. Go out of Israel. Who's he sending? Eliezer. He's sending Eliezer out of Israel. He's sending him to go out and to find a wife from my family. Who's this family? The Mefarshim here on verse 4. They say that Nahor had actually ran away from Ur Kasdim before Terach even left. He had already looked for refuge in Haran. He found this place, Haran. And he's safe. He's there with his family. He has kids. Ultimately, it's Yitzchak who goes to marry a wife from Haran. Who's his father-in-law? Yitzchak's father-in-law?
Nahor. No, Betuel. No.
Betuel and who's the father-in-law? Betuel and who's the uncle? Lavan, you know Lavan. No, Betuel, Lavan, the whole. This is his family. This is Avraham Avinu's family. Yitzchak Avinu marries family. Where did this family come from? They had run away way before Terach. They weren't waiting for somebody to get killed. They were gone. Their aunts, uncles, they all started disappearing. They ran away. They ran away to Haran. What happens in Haran? You notice that Terach got up and he said, I'm going to Eretz Canaan. But does he ever make it to Eretz Canaan? No, where does he stop? He stops in Haran. Listen to this. Why does he stop in Haran? Where happened to his idealism? What happened to his desire to go to the land of Israel? This is the fate of a secular Zionism. Secular Zionism. Let's go somewhere better. Israel, it's a great idea. Uganda, we can go there too. Herzl wanted to go to Uganda before he wanted to go to Israel. We can even go somewhere else. We'll go to Canada, we'll go to wherever, America, wherever we think we can go. We're going to be good Jews, they're not going to kill us. They're always looking for a better place. Not necessarily for the land of Ever. They're not necessarily looking to reconnect that spirituality. They're looking to go out, but not looking to go somewhere specific. And this is the fate. The fate is they end up in Haran. They end up in a place which is halfway, but not really there. You see how many people made Aliyah and then left. Not those who left for Parnasah, for those who left because Israel just wasn't good for them anymore. They found better countries. This is the fate. You find Haran. You can imagine that Terach was in communication with his son Nachor. And Nachor and Terach have this conversation. Nachor says, listen, I'm from your family too, I'm also an Ivri. You don't have to go all the way to Israel. Israel's far. You know how hard it is to make Aliyah. You know how much money you have to come with. Yeah, you don't speak the language, you're going to have to find a job. There's people there that don't like you. They're enemies. You can imagine that if there's no Ivrim left in the land of Israel, then who are they going back to? They're not going back to their brothers. You never find Terach mentioning, I'm going back to my family. Terach is going to resettle the land, to take it over from the Canaanim. Nachor says, listen, Dad, you're a little bit crazy. It's enough they're trying to kill you in Ur Kasdim. You don't have to go. It's not time. Mashiach will come. It's going to save you. Don't go to Israel yet. And Nachor says, come to Haran. The Goyim here, they're completely different. Their culture, they go to college, they love us, they let us sit with them in the universities, in the hospitals, in the schools. Everything we do together, we go for lunch together, we eat in the same restaurants, we speak the same language. We're best friends. You're not talking here about the primitive Goyim, the anti-Semites of Nimrod, of Ur Kasdim. You're talking here about the modern people, the enlightened people. These are special Goyim. They're the Goyim of Haran. Haran is their modern day America. And Nachor and Terach stay there. Stay there. And only Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu on the next page, on page 54. On page 54. Vayomer Hashem and Avram. Hashem decides, listen, I have to intervene. This family doesn't know what they're doing. They're the last Ivrim left, and everyone's doing a different thing. One gets himself killed. Two decides to stay in Chutz La'aretz. What am I going to do? Hashem says, Vayomer Hashem and Avram. Now it's time for Hashem to interfere with this. Now it's time for Hashem to step up to the plate and to get involved. Lech lecha me'artzecha. Leave your land. Your land. U'mimoladetecha. And from the place you were born. U'mibet avicha. And from the house of your father. Understand this differently than the way you normally read Parshat Lech Lecha. Hashem is not telling him specifically here or there. Hashem is ruling out every option you have in Chutz La'aretz. I don't care if it's Moladecha, if you speak the language and you're familiar with them. I don't care if Mibet Avicha, your father has good connections in Haran. I don't care if it's Ma'aretzecha, if you feel comfortable there. I care that you have to leave Chutz La'aretz. And where do you go? El ha'aretz asher areka. I'm going to show you this new land. This land that I'm going to show you. It's not so simple that Avraham Avinu didn't know where he was going. We'd like to say he didn't know, he trusted Hashem. Okay, there's room to say that Avraham Avinu could have had a good guess. He's going back to his roots. He's going back to where he came from. After he has no choice. Hashem didn't leave him anywhere else in the world to go to. Where else are you going to go? To the Eretz Yisrael. And here you find for the first time mention of what I would call religious Zionism, or religiously motivated Zionism. Because here there's no turning back. Hashem says you go to Israel, it doesn't make a difference if it's easier. It doesn't make a difference if Haran is a nice place for the Jews to live. It doesn't make a difference if Nachor is able to set up yeshivas and all kinds of beautiful things. I don't care. My place in Eretz Yisrael. So let me separate the groups here. You have Terach, who runs away. He's the Jew who runs away from the Holocaust. He saves his family. He's a refugee. He lands in a new place, Haran. Nachor is a special person. Nachor is your cosmopolitan Jew. He's a Jew, he's living in a city, he's part of the world, he's integrated into society. He is what I would call your Chutz La'aretz Jew. He's got it going well for him. He doesn't stay in Chutz La'aretz because it's bad. He stays here because he has a job, he has a house, he has a car, his kids go to good schools, he pays membership at the shul. Everything is good. And Nachor's whole worldview is it's not so bad that you have to go to Israel yet. When things get bad, trust me, we have enough money in our safe, we have passports, we'll be the first people on the plane. You know the Jews. That's what Nachor says. I'll go to Eretz Canaan. Just not bad yet. Why should I go? Avraham Avinu says it doesn't have to be bad for you to leave Chutz La'aretz. You as a Jew have to see yourself in Eretz Yisrael. And my job as a Jew is to see myself go to the land of Israel. Let's do the math. Terach has 3 sons. They're the people who are going to continue, the Jewish people. I want to show you something. 1/3 is killed in the Holocaust. 1/3 ends up in Chutz La'aretz. And the third, Avraham Avinu, ends up in the land of Israel. After our Holocaust, 1/3, 6 million people were killed in Europe. Another third, about, stayed around the world, mostly in this country. And another third, about 6 million also, are today living in the land of Israel. It's the same numbers. It's the same 3, 3, 3. It's a third. It's an unbelievable thing how history is repeating itself. And Avraham Avinu has to make a choice. Will I be comfortable like Nachor in Galut? Am I willing to make a move? It's not fun. It's not safe. It's not financially proper and fitting. The enemy is there. I have to work hard. I have to conquer the land. Should I do it? Avraham Avinu says, Hashem told us we have to do it. And Avraham Avinu goes. And he goes. And you can imagine that the remainder of the Jewish people were split up. The family of Nachor and the family of Avraham. The family of Avraham were the diehard. You have to be in Israel. You have to live in Israel. You have to do everything in Israel. The family of Nachor, listen, we're going to go, we visit, we go for Sukkot, we go for holidays, we have our kids go to yeshiva there. But us, we're here, we're happy. Call it the difference between the Jew who felt that he could influence the world by being involved in the world. I'm going to call it the cosmopolitan Jew. And the Jew who knew he could influence Israel only when he became his own people in his own land. I'm going to call it the universal Jew. The Jew who decided that the place is, we're going to Israel, anyone who wants to come can come with us. But we're going there. We're going home. We want to be a light to the nations? We'll be a lighthouse. We'll build a tall tower. We'll shine the light around the world. I don't have to run around. And my job isn't to supply light bulbs to the whole world. My job is to be a lighthouse. And that's the decision that Avraham Avinu makes. And when Avraham Avinu wants his son to get married, so he can't marry the family in Israel. So who does he marry? He says, go marry for my brother. That's who I have. And so Eliezer goes and he finds the daughter of Betuel, the family of Lavan. The daughter of Betuel or Lavan? Betuel. The family of Lavan.
Lavan's the uncle, right?
Lavan's the uncle. And they stay there. He's there for a little bit. He's with her. What happens? Yaakov Avinu. Right? Yaakov Avinu goes back to Lavan. Am I making this up?
Yes.
Yaakov Avinu goes back to Lavan. Yitzchak wouldn't leave Israel. Yitzchak is a diehard Zionist. Yaakov was the first one. He came up with a hitter. You're allowed to leave Israel for finding a wife. You're allowed to leave Israel for finding a job. You're allowed to leave Israel to learn Torah. He does all those things. He leaves Israel. Yaakov Avinu stays with Lavan for how many years?
22.
A long time. 7 years. He's gone. He's gone from home for 22 years. He's with Lavan for 14. In Lavan Galti, I lived with Lavan. He said, I am part of Lavan's family. And the whole time they're getting along, Lavan's a trickster, but he's alive, he's well, he's feeding him. The moment Yaakov Avinu decides, I'm making Aliyah, I'm done, I'm leaving, what does Lavan do to him? Tries to kill him. Why is Lavan getting so violent? What do you care if he's leaving? Why do you care? Tell me why he cares.
Because he made money for him.
He knew that he had a bracha with him and that Hashem was with him. And when he was going to leave all of his things.
All these things are true as part of the small picture, the bigger picture. There are two clashing ideologies here. The ideology of the family of Nachor and the ideology of the family of Avraham. Nachor's family says, listen, stay here. Lavan says, what are you leaving for? Everything's doing it. We have family, we have sheep and cows and goats and whatever they had. And he says, no. As much as I love it here, I have to go back home. I have to go to Israel. And in essence, Yaakov Avinu wasn't just telling him, I need to go because I don't want to be with you. He said, I need to go because you're flawed. Your system is corrupt. I need to go because Nachor made a mistake. Oh, you're dissing our rabbis. You're getting upset at our leaders. There are big people here too. And Yaakov Avinu says, it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going back to Israel. Lavan can't hear this. Lavan is a Kana'i, is a zealot. He says, I'm going to kill you. And that's what he tries to do. And what does Yaakov Avinu? He just goes. He leaves. And in essence, you find that this has repeated itself now in our history. It's the same thing. You have the people who ran away like Terach. You have the people who made a decision like Nachor to stay in Galut. You have the people who made a decision that when they could, like Avraham Avinu, they were going to go back home. And in essence, all of this whole discussion, this whole story, is included here. Avraham HaIvri, the Hebrew in the Kuzari. Why the Ivri? Avraham Avinu refused to be like Lavan. What do we call Lavan? Lavan Arami. Why is he an Arami? He lives in Aram, but what is he? He's an Ivri. Why doesn't Lavan call himself Lavan HaIvri? He's also an Ivri, just like Avraham Avinu is. He doesn't identify himself anymore. He's no longer Jewish. He's American, he's a German, he's Spanish, he's whatever he wants to call himself. He's not an Ivri anymore. He traditionally, culture and gefilte fish, matzah bal soup, all of it is part of his life. But it's not who he is. I don't care where I live, what I live, where I come from. My name is Avraham HaIvri, Avraham the Hebrew. And that's why the Kuzari chooses specifically not to call him Avraham Avinu, not to call him Avraham Rabbeinu, not to call him Avraham just on his own. Rather, he calls him Avraham HaIvri, because this is the whole thesis of the book of Kuzari. This is the book that teaches you about Judaism not just as a religion, not just as a philosophy, not just as a theology. It teaches you about Judaism as a nationality, as a people, as a country, as a land, as a culture, as a government. And that's what the book of Kuzari is all about. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week into newer things along these lines. B'ezrat Hashem, which should happen soon. We should make a proper decision and make sure someone asks you who you are. Say your name is whatever you are, Ha'ivri or Ha'yehudi, whatever you like to call yourself.
Sure of that.
You're a Kuzari.
Absolutely.